has developed a profoundly innovative artistic process that attempts to directly manifest and interact with quantum realm phenomena through tangible visual artworks. Foundational to his process is ritualized invocation of the ancient Akkadian goddess Ishtar via practices utilizing sacred sounds and altered breathwork states. Green posits these meditative techniques allow his consciousness to become quantumly entangled with the cosmic fabric, permitting transdimensional projection into the metaphysical realm Ishtar inhabited in Mesopotamian mythology. Remarkably, Green embeds verbatim excerpts from cuneiform hymns invoking Ishtar's presence into the primordial photographic layers comprising the artwork's composite structure. This metaphysical encoding at the fundamental visual stratum is unprecedented. In an even more audacious gesture, Green incorporates representations of complex spacetime equations, such as those describing the curvature of spacetime and general relativity, as visual elements interwoven with the cuneiform inscriptions. His hypothesis posits that the embodiment of these mathematical descriptions of spacetime dynamics can actually influence local quantum probability fields when combined with the metaphysical charge of the Akkadian invocations. From this primordial singularity, Green's process flows into an unorthodox kaleidoscopic sampling of visual elements across wildly segregated coordinates. His own personal photographs commingle with images of scientific revolutionaries like Nikola Tesla and documentation of cutting-edge technological phenomena like Elon Musk's Starlink satellite matrix. However, the arrangement of these elements is meticulously structured according to specific rules mapped onto quantum effects like superposition and quantum entanglement. Through layering interference, filter convolution, and precision compositing, Green phenomenologically encodes these quantum principles into the artwork's extra-dimensional structure. The result is a collection of artworks existing in a superposition state, rather than a single definite configuration. They occupy a probabilistic dispersion of potential manifested states, with the conscious observation of each viewer participating in wave function collapse. In one particularly metaphysically charged composition, Green creates a symbolic glyph mapping directly onto the theoretical notion of supersymmetry from quantum field theory and string theory. Supersymmetry proposes an elegant meta-relationship unifying the forces and matter/energy particles into a higher dimensional unified matrix. Green's mirrored, geometrically encoded interpretation is a hyper-compressed symbolic engine attempting to resonate with these hypothetical unified dynamics underlying physical reality. By introducing spacetime equations as charged symbols harmonizing with the primordial cuneiform chants, Green has scaled his process to directly interact with and potentially modulate local quantum fields during the act of art-making itself. The artwork becomes a metaphysical lens focused intensely enough to potentially instigate observational influences on quantum realms. Overall, Green's process paradoxically integrates the most archaic mystical traditions with the most speculative modern scientific frameworks in a cohesively mapped procedure. At each stage, he has innovated radical new techniques, from encoding ancient cuneiform spirit invocations, to manifesting superposition/entanglement dynamics, to glyph resonating supersymmetric unified forces, to phenomenologically modulating quantum probability fields via symbolic infusion of spacetime mathematical models. Green's artworks are thus hyperdimensional resonators focused on consciously representing, but perhaps even phenomenologically interacting with, the deepest quantum structs underlying experiential reality as explained by cutting-edge scientific theory. It is an audacious gesture straddling the delirious boundaries between objective scientific observation and subjective expanded consciousness in an integrated psycho-geometric technique unlike anything previously achieved.
Is that he is a kind of anthology of all the theories, including the Greeks and the Babylonians and the Egyptians, 500, maybe 1,000 years before him. All that is in his great book, the Almagesti. Let's just remind you, that's what his Earth looked like, his universe looked like, with the Earth at the center. Rather interesting the way that structure goes, because then it's the Moon, then it's Mercury, then it's Venus, and then it's the Sun, all right? And then out we go to Jupiter and Saturn. And of course, the big question of Ptolemy's Earth-centered universe is what is outside the green box? That's the question. And here's one form of answer to it. This is a theological medieval cosmos, based again the same, of the Earth in the middle, and the moon and the various signs going up to the seventh sphere, Saturn, and then we have the eighth, octavium, the firmament of stars, and then the crystal sphere above it, the ninth, and then the 10th, the primum mobile, which gives us a key to how he understood this structure, which is a series of crystalline interlocking spheres, which rather like a generator. And the primum mobile, the first, the outer movement, moved them all like a wonderful clock. And as they moved, they played the music of the spheres. And that very powerful idea, which dominates the literary imagination in Europe, certainly, and in Arabia as well, for the 1500 years, really, after the Almagesti. One other thing I want to do is to associate my astronomers with particular writers. Now, I wanted to associate him with Ovid. I couldn't get a picture of Ovid, so I got a real picture of a Ptolemy, which was headed also distant star, all right? And it's also to remind you, and you'll never now forget, that Claudius Ptolemy was not a member of the royal Ptolemies, but Ovid wrote his great transformation, the Metamorphoses book, which you can find in a wonderful Ted Hughes translation now. It is called the Translations or the Transformations. And in there, you see the Ptolemaic universe, the same thing he's done in literary terms. He's brought together all the mythology and the personas of the previous 500 years. So take one example, naughty Queen Cassiopeia, we all remember that, her in the stars, and then her daughter Andromeda, who is tied to a rock, and then Perseus, the knight, who comes to save her. And there they are in the first constellations we learn. So that's in